Shalom, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Working Class Chronicles. I am your host, Renaissance Woman, aka Ren Judah, and I just came on here to give you guys a brief update. And for those of you who missed me yesterday on the Hebrew Woman show, I have to say I had to take a break because I really was processing a lot. If you are not subscribed, please follow me on Facebook at the Hebrew Woman Show or at the Renaissance Woman Show. And yes, there is a Working Class Chronicles page on YouTube, on Facebook as well. Well, let me say, if also please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Like, share, subscribe to the Hebrew Woman Show. We are doing work. For me, this everything that I do here is just me chronicling my process as I navigate these waters and make changes in my life. And I know I'm not the only one that goes through the things that I've gone through or that I'm going through. And I always like to share what I'm learning. That is why when I started my leadership journey, we took it on the Hebrew Woman Show. Originally, we were just not just, but we were kind of doing some Bible study and going through scripture that way. And then I accepted a promotion, and over the last almost 2 years, a year or so now for sure, I have been on quite an adventure this last year for sure. But we are reading the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. We had got all the way to law number 9, and I realized once I got my hands on John Maxwell's The 21 Most Powerful Minutes in a Leader's Day that we needed to go back. And not only did I need to go back because I'm not just reading these books, but I also realized that I really like, for me, I really like how these laws complement the studies, the Bible study that we were doing. And when I got to the law of magnetism, and you start talking about you attract who you attract what you are, I realized that that attraction is directly impacted by the law of the lid. So I had to go back. And I'm excited to go back and start at the beginning and couple it with these 21 most powerful minutes in a leader's day. In addition, with some other things I'm doing, I have developed a better habit of journaling. It's something that I've always done on and off since I was a kid, but I've never just had the consistency that I have right now. And so I appreciate that. Shalom down there. And so I am doing that in addition to these exercises. So if you have the time, and I would definitely suggest going to thrift books because you can get a lot of great books cheap on there. 21 Most Powerful Minutes in a Leader's Day and the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. So, Golden Child, I don't know who you are down there, but shalom. You say it's been a long time. I'm really working on getting back going with my content on these channels, and it seems like, I felt like for a while I had writer's block. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do after I had shalom. After I had quit for a while. And now I got it, and so a lot of it is about leadership. And right now on this channel, we're covering navigating a hostile work environment. And I wanted to share some of the things that I've learned about navigating a hostile work environment with my audience, particularly the reporting parts of it, because let me just say, I bungled the whole thing. I didn't know what I was doing. Most of my reporting largely went ignored because I was not following the proper process. I was just I was just because I was in panic mode. I'm just going to be honest here. I was just throwing everything against the wall, hoping something would stick because I had never experienced anything like that before. Didn't know what to do. I didn't have anybody to lead or navigate me through that. So I kind of learned ad hoc. And I don't want anybody else to go through that. The Bible says that the older women are to teach the younger women and children. And I also think not just the older women and children, we should teach each other. And so when you learn something, you share something, right? Freely you receive, freely you give. And just to document implementation process, I can honestly say it made me think of Torah, just studying the Bible, period. You don't know what's in your manual. For example, when I saw Carrie Bryant on the clip of her on Tamron Hall saying that there was no manual for that, it just made me think, well, number one, I don't believe she actually meant that. I think she meant that, I think she meant what she said. I just happened to fall in love with a pastor, and that the Bible is completely inconsequential to her, as it is to most people that are in those secular type circles. And if you really look at the trajectory that they are on, they seem to me to be just auditioning for their own personal reality TV show. So it is not surprising to me to see a person who is looking to have a celebrity lifestyle dress secularly. I think it's interesting though to see, I always hear people say, they say morals, ethics are for poor people. And I do believe that a lot of so-called rich people believe that. They believe that ethics are for poor people. And if that is the case, then, none of this stuff would apply. And I think that's just where we are with it. So for me, I think it is a mistake for people to look towards them as far as holiness. I think, especially when you're talking about mega churches do not follow the Bible, and so there we are. So back to where it pulled together for me. I'm sorry, I was distracted by the disturbance in the chat. I'm just gonna tell you, I have zero patience for people trolling. I'm not going to tolerate it. I will delete you, and you just will be banned from this channel. Anyway, that's what it's like when you don't know the Bible. People can tell you anything. She can tell women in her congregation that her outfits are acceptable because they don't know what's in that book. If you don't know your manual, people can tell you anything, and it's the same at work. If you don't know the policies and procedures for your company, you open yourself up to all types of problems. One thing about it, learn the rules. If you break the rules, at least don't do it ignorantly. Okay? So that is something. And then in a toxic work environment, knowing the rules are critical, because that is how you stay alive. And let me tell you something about AI. Do not allow people to gaslight you into believing that you're dumb or you're taking a shortcut. You know, I watch people tell other people not to use AI while they generate AI messages all day long. And I guess because they still are learning it, they don't know that there are tells. Like, I can literally tell when your messages are generated by AI. So why you would tell me not to use it, I don't know. But I will say this: if it had not been for I would still be writing. Now, people who know me know I write. I write because this isn't the first time that I've had issues with an employer. However, the convenience with which you can narrate your stories, collect your data and your information, particularly in certain organizations, you may have a huge manual. I can think, well, who has a huge, the police department, the fire department, I would imagine building inspectors, what other places? Any government official, anybody that works in government, laws, statutes, ordinance, all these things apply to you. Civil service rules. If you work a regular job and you belong to a union, the union has rules. It is to your benefit if you don't have the bandwidth or the time. Shalom. If you don't have the bandwidth or the time to read those things, get you a couple. And I'm not saying one, a couple. Because let me tell you something, I have an AI team. Each model does different things. They serve different purposes. And so we talk about creating your own personal board of directors, people who you go to seek wise counsel. You need to create your own AI council. I believe that wholeheartedly, and I have done that. As a matter of fact, I just added a new uh, language learning model to my repertoire. Perplexity. I have primarily been a Copilot, Chat GTP, Gemini, and Claude user. Yes, four. And they all do different things. And not to mention OpenArt AI, for helping me create some of my graphic images. And speaking of my graphic images, the Office Terminator series is going to be continuing this week. I have not forgot about Moshe and Uriah. I just had a lot of things going on, and I am excited to say that I have learned how to do some new things with the AI. So I'm really looking forward to continuing the Office Terminator series because some of you work for a Bostonator, and we're going to just have a little fun with this navigating a hostile work environment series and telling the stories in a way that's fun and that kind of bring a little lightheartedness to what is really a terrible situation. Because I can honestly say that a navigating a hostile work environment is a very dehumanizing, demoralizing, and destabilizing experience, right? And a part of the dehumanizing is the othering that happens to you. Because you see, in order for most people to treat you the way that people treat you in a hostile work environment, the mobbing, the harassment, the isolating, the targeting, the constant gotcha game, and in some cases, the willingness to lie in writing on you, it is something that they can do easily once they've dehumanized you in their mind. Once they've made you public enemy number one, you are the villain in their story. So in their mind, it is perfectly fine for them to do the things to you that they do. And it is something that you can't wrap your mind around, particularly when you're like, I don't even know these people. Why are they bothering me? Is it, when somebody is harassing you because you took a promotion, and imagine the unmitigated gall to tell somebody that they stole your job because they took a promotion, right? When somebody is harassing you because they don't like the way you dress, or they don't like the way you talk, or you get more projects done than them, whatever their reasoning, and whatever a person's warped mind, because I've never harassed, targeted, or bullied anybody on a job. So for whatever reason that people do the things they do, in their mind, it obviously makes sense, okay? And so all I'm saying is it's not going to make sense to you. If you are a person who tries your best to live a moral and decent, upright life, it's going to be hard for you to wrap your mind around. It's going to be hard for you to wrap your mind around the fact that most organizations will not intervene on your behalf. When you report, the clock starts ticking for you. Numbers show that about what I read, it was like 65% of people who report uh, lose their jobs, whether it's through termination, pressure, them being, you be worked out of the schedule, constructive termination. A lot of that tends to happen, and so you have to be ready for that. And so this content, on some levels, isn't for everybody, but it benefits everybody because you'll know what to look for when you come in. You'll know what things aren't quite right, because hindsight being 2020, for a lot of positions I will say that I've had throughout my life, especially when you're younger, you don't know what you're looking at. And so if you can identify it sooner rather than later, you can save yourself a lot of hassle, you know. And but I will just say that I've worked in law enforcement. I've had a lot of different jobs. I've done everything from housekeeping to cooking to cleaning to property management, real estate. I have done a little bit of everything, right? And I am a serial hobbyist. I enjoy learning how to do new things. And whenever I'm moving in circles and learning new things and dealing with new people, I just have gotten to see so many different aspects of life and city life, right? It is there are certain things that I encounter and that I don't know. I think just being a black woman, there are certain things. For example, I've dealt with gender discrimination when I worked for the housing authority, and I was a security guard there for the housing authority. They used to have their own in-house security, and I always remember the sergeant used to say the girls sit at the desk. You know, he didn't want any women out in the field with him because he just did not believe that a woman could have his back. Well, of course, over time, he soon learned, and I was always picked to go out in the field. And it has always been the case with me whenever, wherever I worked the detail at, that when people got to know me, whenever they had issues, they would come and get me instead of my male counterparts. And I think sometimes it's because some women in law enforcement, we do seek to go in my experience. I would say black women, I don't have a mentality of I have to prove myself. I have the attitude of what the job requires was for you to de-escalate. And I always noticed that men and certain types of women would always escalate. And if that's not your role. And so when you put on a uniform and a badge, you have to go in with the mindset that Marcus Aurelius spoke of, right? You know, you're going to deal with the ignorant, the lazy, the trifling. I'm paraphrasing here, but you're going to deal with the messed up people out there. And you have to go in there with the mindset. But you don't get to meet them where they live. And that's the thing that a lot of law enforcement officers I find will always get them in trouble because you think that because they have sunk to this level that you get to as well. That's not how that works. You were given that position. You swore to that position of authority because you're saying that I can be the level-headed one here. And I'm just going to say that when they escalate, you unless there is danger involved where somebody else is going to be hurt, and no, you don't have the duty to retreat. But if you are, if this person is easily identifiable, like we literally can just go get you. Why am I going to put their life at risk and my life at risk? Like, bitch, I'll see you later. We know where you live. We have your place. It's really that simple. But when you have something to prove and you think because you can, it's like all things. Just because you can, it doesn't mean you should. And I do think that black officers are weak. When I was you had to have a level of restraint that other people seem to not have to have. I'll just say that. But I digress. My point is, though, I've never been the type of person who will sit by and watch. I am not a shut up and take it type of person. So you can't abuse me and I just sit there and take it. You can't abuse other people in front of me and I sit there and say nothing. I'm not wired that way. And so, yeah, people like me, we probably don't last too long in certain conditions. A person like me, you are not going to last in a hostile work environment because you're not going to shut up and take it. So that's the part where you'll have to get honest at. But what can help you survive until you can move on and do something else, I'm going to give you the tools to do that. I'm going to help you set yourself up to where you don't have to worry about it. And so if they do terminate you, you will go out righteously. And you'll also go out with a lawsuit because there's no way in hell, no way in hell if you are doing what you're supposed to do. You're human. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to do anything perfect. But when you can literally show up the patterns and the discrimination, the disparate treatment, it is your duty to document those things. And that is what this content is for. to show you what that is supposed to look like and to show you how to set your tools up so that you can be successful. Listen, if you don't do anything else today, you get off of here. If you don't know the rules on your job, you go get that, you download it, and you upload it into at least 3 models. Okay? At least three. And so, and I would even say, even though I haven't had a chance to really play with it yet, Perplexity is supposed to be a deep researching model. It is supposed to be able to go online and extract data in real time in ways that Claude and Copilot, uh, ChatGPT can't do. Right? They now don't get me wrong, Gemini and these tools they can do some research, but Perplexity is supposed to be able to go deeper in a way that they don't. So I would say take your manuals and your orders of operation. If you belong to a union, get that. Upload all of that into a language model, AI model. And when you before you do anything, particularly if you are in a hostile work environment, find out how to do it. Find out what the procedures are, even for filing complaints, because these bureaucracies exist for a reason. And part of the process of the reporting process is to wear you down. They will drag things out for forever because at some point they are hoping that you're going to just get tired and go away. And let me tell you something. I have had those times where I have just gotten tired. However, I'm not going to just go away. And I'm not going to just be quiet. And I'm not going to shut up and take it because I'm not built that way. And I know that a lot of, now I'm not going to say a lot because here's the other thing too that you're going to have to understand. If you decide to go down the road of reporting, the clock starts ticking. Again, you think about that 60, what's it, 65, let's just say 65 until, and I'll get that correct data for you, percent of people lose their jobs once they start reporting. You understand that just like the Bible says, there's only a remnant that is going to get it. There's only going to be a remnant on your job that will tell the truth about what is happening to you because they don't want to be targeted either. They don't even want to talk to you. They don't. Let me tell you something. I had two coworkers who hid behind cubicles when I was walking by. Hey, asked me to meet them outside. They didn't want to be seen talking to me because they didn't want to be targeted. I've been in an environment like that. And when you are in an environment like that, it is the craziest thing. And so, but you can't get mad at people for being afraid. And that's something I had to reconcile and come to terms with. I would be so angry because people would be coming to me covertly, telling me the things that were happening to them, but they wouldn't report it. And I'm like, well, on the psilocybin side of the game, collectively we can win. They just don't have the courage to do it. Keep in mind that the civil rights movement, that was only led by a minority of people. Most movements are only led by a minority of people. You think about those people in Congress who spoke up during 9/11, was it like 5 of them? You are going to be in the minority even when you are dead right. And I struggle with calling it cowardice, that people are cowards. And I have to remember that there's always only a certain number of people who go out to war. There's only a small minority of people who stand up and fight in any situation. People will sit and watch wrongdoing and do nothing because they're just cowards. They're just built that way. And there's nothing you can do about it. If somebody has a noodle bag, all the pep talks in the world is not going to help them. But guess what? You have to help them. And this is something that I have to pray about. And I always ask the Most High to help me about, number one, to stop calling these people cowards because They're afraid. But for me, I'm like, well, there are a lot of times that I'm afraid and I still move forward. But everybody doesn't have that. So that's a struggle. So that's a struggle for me. But I'm not going to stay on here too much longer. But I just wanted to just give an update and just state that I'm going to continue the hostile work environment series. I'm getting the next talk together, and we're going to have to revisit the first initial conversation about knowing your status in geography and know your book, know your roles, know your book. Because when you don't know the rules, it can hurt you, it hurts your team, it hurts your family, it hurts everybody. When you don't know the word, it hurts you, it hurts your family, because whether you want to admit it or not, or acknowledge it or not, you're a leader. If you have a family, you're in a leadership position. If people are following you on Facebook, Clubhouse, wherever the hell you are a leader. And you have an obligation to learn the rules of engagement. That's all I got, y'all. Have a good night. The 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. If you're gonna follow, if you're gonna participate, if you're gonna read it, or even if you just read it at your own pace, I would love to hear your progress and what you're learning from it. You can email me. Emails on the screen. sistah7@gmail.com. And let's talk about your leadership journey and your journaling. 5 things before I get off of here. Get you a journal. Get you a planner, get you a good recorder, find out the laws in your state, and know if you're in a state that has one or two party, whatever the rules are as far as recording goes. Find out the rules of the game so that you can protect yourself. And if nothing else, writing is not illegal. Write your heart out. Protect yourself. And I'll get the Patreon back started and we'll do some closed door sessions because there are some things that I will tell you that I do that it may not be kosher to say, you know, here online. But if you need a one on one and you want to talk to me about your situation, I can tell you what tools I'm using and what I've done to mitigate some of my situations. Again, sistah7@gmail.com. Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.